Good morning. It is Friday, February 19th at about 9:10 in the morning. My name is Larry Cedar. I'm back with you for another session, a practice session on scanning. Scanning is a relaxation technique which utilizes the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and mental calm. That's what we do here. We practice a very simple technique, the incremental release of muscular tension, which relaxes the body, brings it into what I call a more expanded state, which in turn influences the mind, causing the muscle of the mind, if you will, to relax as well. It has a grip on impulsive and compulsive anxieties, tensions, worries. It releases them. They float away and you're left in a state of calm, peace and calm. That's the goal here. And we just keep practicing that technique until we get better and better at it, and we can use it on demand as needed. Something you can use any time of the day, any time of the night, anywhere, without anyone even knowing you're doing it. It's a very simple technique. It's based on the very simple fact that we can control the muscles. We can contract them or expand them, release them. And we use that ability throughout our body to bring ourselves into a more expanded, relaxed state. So that's all we do. The reason we practice it is because we spend 90% of our day, our life, contracting, what I call contracting, bringing things together, tensing up, bringing together thoughts, materials, ideas, elements to create an agenda and pursue that agenda and to hang on to the results. That's contracting. We spend much less time practicing the art of expansion, letting go, releasing, becoming relaxed, free, open, accessible. So what we're trying to do is bring our lives into balance. If the spectrum we operate on in the universe is contraction, expansion, we vacillate between those two concepts, those two processes. We spend way too much time contracting and not enough time expanding. So this technique allows you to bring your life into balance with equal amounts of contraction and expansion by infusing your life with more expansion. That's all we do. And I want to start today's session. I always kind of start with maybe the thought of the day. And what occurred to me is that maybe it's not clear sometimes to people that I use this on a practical level for myself. This is not something as theoretical for me. I would go so far as to say this technique has saved my life. It's brought me out of some very, very difficult states of mind, tension, depression, whatever. You know, we're all going through that these days with the pandemic and everything. And this technique consistently brings me out of those moods into a more stable, calm, clear place where I can more effectively deal with my life. I use it all the time, every day, several times a day, and it gives me a sort of stability. It allows me to function effectively in my life because I've created a balance. I can become very contracted, worried, concerned. I can work hard. I can hang on to thoughts and concepts and political ideas and religious ideas, and I can argue with people and I can advance that agenda. Or I can move into a more expanded state when I wish to, which is scanning, using the incremental release of muscular tension to bring myself into a more expanded place and calm down and be still, quiet, empty, at peace. That's the balance we need. That's why we say we need a vacation. We become overly contracted. That's why we say we need a drink. We need to smoke a joint. We need to pop a pill. We become overly contracted and we're looking for a chemical expansion, a substance that will do it for us. Well, I'm here to tell you, you can do it yourself without all the negative side effects that chemicals and drugs and the dependencies that come with them bring. So that's why we're here. I just wanted to get that out of the way. It's a very practical technique. It's so simple. There's no book you need to read. There's no lecture you need to attend. You don't have to come here and listen to me, which is probably very tedious at times because I keep saying the same thing over and over again. All you need to know is that through the incremental release of muscular tension, you can solve a lot of problems and get yourselves out of a lot of bad situations, as I do every single day. So let's get started. Thaddeus Golis, the man Thaddeus Golis, wrote a book called The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment about 60 years ago. Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment. You can still buy it. It's a little 76-page volume. You can buy it on Amazon. If you can find the original edition, it's worth a lot of money because they're not printing them anymore, but that's the best one. And because he changed it after that in ways that I didn't particularly agree with, but that's his business. He's the genius, not me. Thaddeus Golis said that the universe is divided into two basic processes. Contraction, squeeze your hands together tight. That's what contraction is. You now know what contraction feels like. Everywhere in the universe, it feels the same. Contraction, the bringing together of substances, ideas, intentions to advance an agenda. In this particular case, to get a grip. And the other process, opposite of contraction, is 3, 2, 1, release, expansion. That's it. The universe basically operates on those two processes, on the basis of those two processes, contraction or expansion. And we move between those two states throughout our life. Everything in the universe moves between states of contraction and expansion. Your body is a contraction. When you were born, The universe brought together elements, materials, substances, minerals, whatever it is our body is made of, and formed a body. And we spend our lives holding it together, keeping it together, okay, until you die and everything just dissipates, expands, and goes back to dust until it reforms into something else. So that's about as fundamental as you can get. So throughout our lives, we vacillate between these two states. The problem is, in this modern day and age, we tend to contract a lot more than we expand. So we find ourselves in an overly contracted state. Well, what is that? That's when you feel like you need a vacation. Simply put, I need out of here. Get me out of here. I need a break. God, I need a drink. I need a pill. Doctor, give me a pill. I need to lie down. I need to expand. You become overly contracted, which is where a lot of us are these days. Now, the flip side of that sort of agitated contraction is depression, which is an emotional contraction. You're closed off. You feel like you don't want to talk to anybody. You don't want to think about anything. You don't want to go anywhere. You're depressed. That's also a contraction. So scanning, the incremental release of muscular tension, which expands you, can also help depression. It can also help anxiety, worries, any of those things. And as they say, they used to say on TV, I'm not just a scanner. I don't just, no, wait, what is it? I'm not a scanner, but I play one on TV. No, it's the opposite. I actually do practice this every single day. So let's get started. What we want to do today is expand. So put your hands together. That's contraction. I want you to see what contraction feels like. Okay. So it's important in these sessions that you concentrate on what things feel like. So stop thinking, put your logical mind away. There's no logic to this technique. It just works. And see what it feels like to contract. You're just reenacting one half of the processes in the entire universe. This is it, contraction. So we do a lot of this. And it feels good because it's nice to be strong and to be able to make a grip. When you shake someone's hand and they have a firm handshake, you tend to respect them because it's a person that knows how to keep it together and make things happen. Problem is, as you see, as you hold on to it, keep squeezing really tight. For a while, it starts to feel tiresome. You start to feel stuck, rigid, limited, unavailable to do other things. You're stuck. You wish you could let go, but you've made a decision. You're going to grip your hands together today, so you keep doing it. You don't know how to get out of it. Well, maybe if I grip harder. No, that just makes it worse. So you're in an overly contracted state. Now, the great news is all of us have the ability within us to reverse our state of consciousness at any time. We forget, but we can. It's this simple. 3, 2, 1, release. Drop your hands to your sides. Take a deep breath. And another. And another. Now just sit for 15 seconds in absolute stillness and silence. Don't move a muscle. Deep breath. So you just expanded. Ever so slightly perhaps, but you did. Now I started these sessions talking a lot of words pouring out. Words are a contraction, the bringing together of letters, sentences, ideas to advance an agenda. Talk, 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 talk. That's a contraction. We tend to talk all day. We shifted that. We let go of this contraction. We expanded physically. We took deep breaths, which are expansive by nature, and then we sat in absolute stillness, something we rarely do, to send a message to our body and our consciousness that we have stopped doing what we were doing. I shut up. I stopped moving. I stopped moving. I stopped talking. So the first thing we do in this preliminary phase of scanning is to extract ourselves from our contracted state through breath, through stillness, through silence. I'm going to say that again. Through breath, through stillness, through silence. And I say that, I reemphasize that because if you don't have time to do what is I call nuts and bolts of the technique, which we'll get into in about 10 minutes. If you haven't got time to do that, you can always do what the preliminary phase of scanning is. Breath, stillness, silence. Very, very simple. Take a deep breath. 2 more if you have the time. 15 seconds of stillness and silence. So you just moved yourself into a more expanded state. I just moved myself into a more expanded state. I took a breath. I sat in stillness and silence. Again, this technique is designed for simplicity. Simplicity. There's nothing you need to remember. Nothing you need to remember except these few simple steps. And it's important. That's why I emphasize this, that you understand the simplicity of this technique. For some reason, a self-help technique has to be very complicated. We have to read a book. We have to buy a book. We have to attend a lecture. We have to go see speeches by some guru or something. No, this is something I know. This is something you know. You know this instinctively. I'm just reminding you of something you already know. Instinctively, we take a breath when we're tense. Instinctively, we'll say, I got to sit down for a second. Instinctively, we'll shut the F up. We know we need to expand. We know we need to stop contracting. We just forget how. We reach out for chemical expansions because we don't think we're capable of doing it ourselves, or we don't want that responsibility because it can be scary to expand. It can be scary to let go of all the things we're holding on to. The social media, our posting, our tweeting, our emailing, our phone calls, the TV, video games, the drugs, the food, everything we involve ourselves in to presumably make ourselves feel better. We're afraid to let them go. Furthermore, we're afraid to let go of the way we identify ourselves by the things we say, by our identity, our job title. We're afraid to just go to a place of stillness and silence and nothingness because we're afraid we will then be lost. But the truth is, it's in stillness and silence that you find yourself, because there's nothing else in stillness and silence but you. The beating of your heart, the taking of your breath, the sensations of the air on your skin, and the sounds in the room. When you go to a place of stillness and silence, there's just you. Now that can be frightening for some people. It can be frightening for me. I practiced this for years, thousands of hours. I never like to start because what's required is that I let go. I let go of all the obsessive thoughts I'm holding on to, all the processing I'm doing, all the thinking I'm doing. I let go of where I am in life, my sense of who I am. I just have to go to a place of stillness and silence. What is that? That's frightening. There's nothing there. Have I lost everything? Have I given control up completely? No. You've dropped the encumbrance of contraction and you've come to a free, open place of stillness and silence. That's the goal. So let's repeat this process. Squeeze your hands together just to remind ourselves. And we do this just to say, here's the difference. Here's what we're working with. Contraction, squeeze your hands together, tight. 3, 2, 1, release, let them drop to your lap. Take 5 deep breaths, followed by 30 seconds of absolute stillness and silence. Continue to breathe, but absolute stillness. Here we go. 5 deep breaths. 30 seconds, absolute stillness and silence. Continue to breathe. Ten more seconds. Deep breath. It's truly amazing the effect that absolute stillness has on your consciousness. It takes concentration and it takes effort. And as I said, it's something we rarely do. But when we do it, it sends a very strong signal to your body and your consciousness that we have stopped doing what we were doing, which in most cases is contracting. I always say it's like a dog. If you've ever had a dog and you've trained that dog wants to pull you all over the place. And at some point you kind of pull up on the leash and you say, sit, stay. And the dog wants to fidget, especially if it's a young dog, a puppy, wants to fidget and run. You go, stay, stay. And eventually the dog will sit and await your command. Now you've done the dog a favor because you've taught the dog that the dog can control its own impulses. And you've done yourself a favor because you no longer have to chase a wild dog all over the yard. So that's what we're doing. We're training ourselves. And you can't train yourself. You can train yourself. I like to say there's two of us. There's the physical being and there's the higher self. The physical being is like that puppy, just reacting and going all over the place and wanting to run over there and wanting to run over there and running in circles and thinking whatever it wants to think. The higher self stands back and looks at the physical being and says, I see what you're doing. And that's not necessarily good for you. You're getting yourself a little wound up. So sit, stay. Physical being goes, no, I don't want to. You say, sit, Stay. You can train yourself. The person I'm talking to in these sessions, you, is the higher self, because you understand. You understand what I'm talking about. So you can now, in turn to your own physical being and direct it to behave. Let's do this one more time. 7 deep breaths this time, followed by a full minute, 60 seconds of absolute stillness and silence. And if you do get a little dizzy, that's okay. Remember, you're changing states of consciousness. You're literally extracting yourselves from your contracted state into this free, open, somewhat vulnerable, permeable, expanded state through the breath alone. So that can be disoriented, especially, it's like you've ever been lying in bed for a long time. In the morning when you get up, you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You have to adapt to movement, to motion. Same thing. If you've been in a contracted state and you extract yourself very forcefully through the breath, you can be disoriented, but you'll adapt to this new expansive state. Just give yourself a moment. You're sitting in a chair and just take that moment of stillness to gather yourself. We've moved. We've moved from a contracted state into a more expanded state. You can't contract and expand at the same time. So as you move into expansion, you leave contraction behind. Even the smallest amount of expansion leaves contraction behind. So never underestimate the power of the simplest breath. A simple breath can expand you. 7 deep breaths, 60 seconds, absolute stillness and silence. Here we go. 60 seconds, absolute stillness and silence. Don't move a muscle, but continue to breathe. 30 more seconds. Ten more seconds. Deep breath. And another. Now take a moment to note the changes you're feeling. And again, scanning is a feeling process. It's really important that you pay attention to how differently you feel. If you've shifted states of expansion and contraction, then see how it feels to be slightly more expanded. Just make a note. It's important that you remember, because as you familiarize yourself with what it is to be expanded, it's like track record. It's like rehearsing a play. I'm an actor. When I rehearse a play, the first time I do a scene, it's unfamiliar. I don't know what I'm saying. The 10th time, I know what I'm saying a little better. I know where to move. By the time we get to opening night, I just do it. I'm familiar with the physical process of saying those lines, standing here, picking this up, walking off the stage, walking on the stage. I've conditioned my body. I've rehearsed. This is a rehearsal of sorts. You're learning the route. You're learning the road to expansion. You're getting it in your physical being. So pay attention to how it feels. Each time you expand a little further, you'll get a little bit more trained, a little bit better trained, and you'll be able to take this trip all the more readily. Now, again, I've been doing this for years, thousands of hours. I will tell you the hardest part about scanning for me is starting. Putting down the phone, the smartphone, put it down, turn it off. It's almost like I have to force myself. Turn off the TV, push away the food, put away the emails, put down the whatever it is I'm doing. Stop. That's why stillness is so valuable. You have to put everything down. Stop. Just be. The hardest part to scanning is starting, because you must let go. You must let go of your compulsions. You must let go of your contraction. Contraction doesn't want to let go. Contraction's job is to hold on. That's the resistance you feel, is contraction saying, why are you asking me to let go? I'm just doing my job. This is what I'm supposed to do. You say, yes, I acknowledge that. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for working so hard. Thank you for giving me a job title. Thank you for earning me money. Thank you for helping me write that book. Thank you for posting that tweet and that email. I've got a lot of followers now. Thank you for accomplishing all that. But now is the time to do the opposite, equally important task of expansion. Let go. So you're going to get a big argument from contraction. But once you start to let go, once expansion starts to win, you will feel the benefits of expansion. Contraction won't mind. Contraction will say, oh, I understand what you're doing. You are bringing balance into my life. Thank you. So you'll feel better and better as you go, but it's a struggle. Letting go is a struggle. I'm telling you from someone who practices this all the time. And it's why I practice so much, because I know if I ever stop practicing, I'll get stuck in contraction. I'll never get out. I don't ever want to go back to that place. I've lived a life of complete and utter contraction. It ain't a happy place to be. You want balance. You want to be able to let go so that you can come back to center. And that's why people call it flow. You're able to move between states. You're able to work hard, and then you're able to let it all go and just be. Going to a state of expansion and being is coming back to yourself, so that when you then re-enter the world of contraction, you bring yourself with you. Everything you do is more full, more complete, more fulfilling, because you're not just doing it because you think you're supposed to. You're doing it because your entire being desires this. Your entire being is behind this. So this is people with flow. I mean, we meet people like this. They're fantastic. They work hard. They create hard. They're sensational. You know, I had the good fortune of meeting Fred Astaire. I can't believe I actually met him. I was doing a show called Movie Star, and there was a lot of dancing, and there was a Fred Astaire number, which I did actually. One day he came to the show and came backstage. I was terrified, but this is a guy. Now, if you don't know who Fred Astaire is, just do a search. And just on YouTube, and just watch any of this thing. This guy contracted hard. By contraction, I meant he practiced hard. He perfected the art of dance. There was never a better dancer, ever. And he worked really, really hard to get perfect at it. He spent thousands of hours in the dance studio perfecting what he did so that he could what? Make it look easy. But when you met Fred Astaire, he was like this. Well, it's very nice to meet you. How are you? That was a great show. Thank you. I had a wonderful time. And I shook his hand, and it was as gentle could be. This is a man who probably killed his body dancing. I mean, literally, I was a dancer for a while. It's really rough on the body. And this is a guy who killed himself to perfect the art of dance, the ultimate contraction. He made it perfect. But he also knew how to move into an expanded state where he let it all go. When I met him backstage that night, he wasn't thinking about dance. He wasn't thinking about rehearsing. He was thinking about meeting me and shaking my hand and looking right into my eyes and saying, good job. It was wonderful to see your show. Thank you. Gentle, relaxed, and open. That's what you want. That's what you want in life. You want to be a fully realized person. You want balance. You want to be able to contract, create, do, write, build, engage as fully as you possibly can. Get as good as you can at what you do. Work hard, contract. But also, you want to be able to let it all go and come back to a place of stillness, nothingness, emptiness, contentment, silence, just being. Because underneath all that contraction is just a human being. That's all Fred Astaire was when I met him that night. A human being. One human being to another, shaking hands, feeling the warmth of his hand, having him look me in the eye, speaking with that wonderfully sweet, engaging voice, indicating to me that he really enjoyed the show, engaging me in that way. That's an expanded person. He was open, available, and vulnerable. That wasn't the guy who was working hard or rehearsing hard. That was the guy who was a person. That's what you become when you expand. You come back to your simple self. That's what we want. Most of us contract a lot more than we expand, so we practice expansion through scanning, the incremental release of muscular tension. So let's continue. We've done what I call the preliminary phase of scanning. That's deep breath, stillness, and silence. Now we move into what I call the nuts and bolts of scanning. And I do the same thing every session. It's very simple, but it has to be practiced to be perfected. And so I do it all the time, the same way. It's not going to change. You're going to come back in 6 months. You'll see me doing exactly the same thing. And I'll never perfect it, but I'll always aspire to perfect it. Incremental release of muscular tension. Make a fist, 3, 2, 1, release. That's releasing muscular tension. The muscles are the perfect metaphor for this contraction expansion continuum, because what can the muscles do? Two things, contract and expand. That's all they do. They're not the brain. The brain can run loop-de-loops and do backflips and springs and jumps, and it can run circles around you. So we don't want to deal with the mind. It's too clever for us. We want to change our state of consciousness through the body, which is basically a simple mechanism. The muscles can contract or release. So we're going to do that through our entire body. We're going to release muscular tension throughout our entire body, section by section, or what I call zone by zone. You can call it whatever you like, but that's what I call it. So we're going to start with zone 1, the face. And on my count, I want you to release the muscular tension in your face. Just let it go. an incremental amount, but I want you to feel the change. What's important is not how much you release, but that you release. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, and release. You saw my face droop. The snap was a release of tension. I just let it go. So the face, 3, 2, 1, and release. Now I want you to pay very close attention to how that felt. We're studying feelings here. Physical sensations. What we're learning is the sensation of release. The face, 3, 2, 1, and release. You saw that? Slackening. Look in the mirror if it helps. Watch the difference. 3, 2, 1, look at my face and release. Okay, that's slackening. That's what we want to perfect. We're going to move through our body and induce a relaxed state in every part of our body as deeply as we can. That's why we call it scanning. We're scanning our body for pockets of muscular tension and releasing that tension. That will bring your body into a physically expanded state, which will in turn influence the mind, the muscle of the mind, if you will, holding on tightly to anxieties and obsessions and compulsions. The mind will relax. Let go of all those worrisome thoughts and ideas. They'll float away and you'll be left in a state of calm, still peace. Zone 2 is the top of the head. 3, 2, 1, and release. You feel that? You're going to get better and better at this. It might seem weird at first, but remember, if you forget what it is to release muscular tension, just make a fist. 3, 2, 1, release. That's it. That's all we're doing. Zone 3, the back of the head. 3, 2, 1, and release. There it goes. Now, you've started to move your body into a more expanded, relaxed state. And you're going to start to feel the rest of your body go with it. Even before I get to my feet, they'll probably start to relax because the body is one unit. We think it's separate parts, but everything's connected. So as your head starts to relax, your feet start to go, what's going on up there? Hey, invite me to the party. And the feet will start to relax as well. Because instinctively, we know it feels better to expand. It just feels better. You know, you carry around a certain low level of muscular tension all day, just trying to, quote unquote, keep it together. When you're just sitting here, you don't need to be holding that tension, so let it go. Zone 4 is the neck. 3, 2, 1, and release. There it goes. You feel that? Even if it's slight, even if you don't feel a change in the muscles, just thinking about expansion expands you. Just thinking expansive thoughts expands you. And remember, you can't expand and contract at the same time. So any amount of expansion is good, is bringing you closer to a completely expanded state and away from contraction. I want to emphasize there's nothing wrong with contraction. It's how we get things done. It's how Fred Astaire learned how to be the best dancer ever. But there comes a time when it's appropriate to let it go, to do the opposite, expand and bring yourself into balance. Zone 5 is the shoulders. Let them go. 3, 2, 1, let them drop, and there they go. You feel that? You're giving yourself permission to let go. Let go. You don't need a drink to make that happen. That's a chemical expansion. There are side effects. There are dependency issues. There are behavioral and social issues associated with chemicals. It's just better if we can do it naturally. So all I'm doing is reminding you that you have the skills within you. You have the ability innately within you. It came with the package. Use these skills to bring yourself into an expanded state. The shoulders, 3, 2, 1, and let them drop. Zone 6, the chest, the stomach, and the front of the waist. Let it go. 3, 2, 1, and release. Take a breath. So we've moved even further into a more deeply expanded, relaxed state. You're starting to let go. Zone 7 is the back down into the pelvis. Think about the pelvis and the tension you may be holding there. It's typically a clenching feeling. See if you can let that go. Just 1%. 3, 2, 1, the pelvis, and release. You'll feel yourself settle more deeply into your chair. Again, the pelvis, 3, 2, 1, let it go. Release. And this can be uncomfortable or kind of concerning for some people. Well, if I'm letting go, I'm losing control. It only feels that way. That's the contraction speaking to you and screaming, don't let go, you'll lose control. That's just the argument your body's having with itself. But let expansion win. Let it go. Zone 8 is down the legs, across the knees, and into the feet. 3, 2, 1, and release. And again, the feet, think of them as a fist. You're just letting go. You may not be familiar with what it is to relax the tension in your feet. That's why we practice, to get better and better at it. The more you practice this, the more control you will have over every muscle in your body. Some are easier to control than others. The face is easy. 3, 2, 1, release. The fist is easy. 3, 2, 1, release. Some are trickier, so you practice. Again, the feet. 3, 2, 1, just let them go. Ah. And the feet really don't want to let go because they never know when you're going to stand up. So they stay at attention on duty, but you're sitting down. So let them go. A good sign that you've expanded the tension in your feet is you'll begin to feel a tingling or throbbing as the blood vessels open up through this expansion. The capillaries, arteries, and veins begin to open up. The blood begins to flow back into your feet, and you'll feel a throbbing, a tingling. Hopefully you'll feel that in your hands as well. The extremities are the last place to get blood flow because the body, especially when it's tense, tends to concentrate the blood around the heart where it's most needed. But as you relax, all that opens up. All the alleyways and passageways to the blood vessels in your body, even the extremities, the hands, feet, and head begin to open up, and you'll feel a slight throbbing sensation. That's you opening up, expanding. Okay? Let's do this one more time. The face, 3, 2, 1, let it go, and release. The top of the head, 3, 2, 1, and release. The back of the head, 3, 2, 1, and release. The neck, 3, 2, 1, let it go, and release. The shoulders, let them drop. 3, 2, 1, and the chest, stomach, front of the waist. 3, 2, 1, let it go. And the whole body's starting to go now. Down the back, zone 7, and into the pelvis. Let it go. 3, 2, 1, and release. Down the legs, across the knees, and into the feet. Zone 8. 3, 2, 1, and release. Deep breath. Another. And another. Just sit for a moment in stillness and silence. So I want to emphasize again how important it is to remember it's not how far you move the dial, it's that you move. If you feel even the slightest bit more expanded, you have succeeded. Some days you'll go further than others. Some days you won't have time. Some days you'll just have the time to take a deep breath and just sit for a moment. Sometimes that's all the time you'll have. Sometimes you'll have an hour. Sometimes you'll have an hour, but because we're resistant to let go, you won't take that hour. I can tell you how many times I've sat down to expand and just kind of stared at my phone for 15, 20 minutes saying, yeah, I'm going to start in a second. Yeah, I'm going to start in a second. And just stared at my phone and flipped through pages and emailed and texted and posted and tweeted. You just don't want to let go. That's the body's contraction, which we've gotten so good at, wanting to keep contracting. So it takes discipline. I recommend, and it's what I do, you keep a log of how many hours a day you scan. And it can be a quarter of an hour, so 0.25. Just keep a log. Next time you do it, it could be a half an hour, so 0.50. So now you've done 0.75. Maybe you do another quarter of an hour. Now you've done an hour. Okay? So when I say I've done thousands of hours, I know I have because I've kept a log. And it's motivating because you're not going to want to waste time looking at your phone. You say, I could be scanning and I could be building up my ability. So try it. Just get some kind of book or something. Keep a journal. Do it as a tweet, a Twitter account, something. But keep a log. And it's a good way of guaranteeing that you get a certain amount of scanning in per day. I like to try to get in 2 hours a day. I do a half an hour here. I try to do a half an hour somewhere else. I do a half an hour when I get into bed. At night, I do a half an hour when I wake up in the morning before I start my day. You'd be amazed how tense your body is when you wake up in the morning. If you wake up and give yourself a half an hour of scanning, just lying down in bed, it's incredible how much energy you'll have when you finally get your day started. So give that a shot. Anyways, that's today's session. Thanks for coming. Who is it? Jared has birthday today? Did I see that? Yeah, Jared, happy birthday if you're still here. It's a good day. It's called Sqanning, Sqanning. Sqanning is a relaxation technique which utilizes the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, primarily physical, that's where we're starting. We're using our body to influence our mind to induce a deep state of physical, emotional, and mental calm. I'll repost this session on my Facebook page if you missed any or all of it or just want to watch it again. I also repost it on the Sqanning Facebook page, spelled Sqanning. Search for the page on Facebook, like and follow it if you want alerts whenever I'm doing a session. As I said, I try to do one public session a day, sometime before noon. Sometimes I don't make it, but I always try to get one in there every day, a new one. And I always end every session with rule number one. Rule number one in life. This is my rule number one. Love yourself. Love yourself. Give yourself a break. Embrace yourself. Hug yourself like you were your own kid. Love yourself. Even the parts about you that you really have a difficult time loving. You must love yourself. This is what you were given. So just love everything about yourself every single day, every minute of the day. And if you have a hard time loving yourself sometimes, then love yourself for having a hard time loving yourself, because that just means you're trying. You want to be better. And that's noble, and that's what we all do. And that's why we're good people. So love yourself. And when you have so much love in you that there's extra and it's spilling out, then pass it around to whoever happens to be near you, because I guarantee you they could sure use it. So have yourself a great day. Thanks for visiting. Have a great weekend. Maybe I'll see you this weekend. All the best to you. Take care. And thanks again. Bye-bye.